Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Data Standard Audio Experience. I'm here today with Ben Nichols, the head of product for Direct Link by IMS, and today we're speaking more about NLP for financial companies. So welcome to the show, Ben. It's such a pleasure to have you today.
Thanks, Catherine. Pleasure to be on today.
Yeah, and could you just tell us more about your background and go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
Certainly. So you have it correct. I'm the head of product for our Direct Link product at IMS. In my current role, I oversee all aspects of the product and R&D cycles, which includes product management, UX and UI design, software and machine learning engineering, and IT operations. A little bit about the company. IMS is a family-owned business that's been operating since the mid-1980s and has traditionally been focused on transactional print and mail. It's kind of like their bread and butter. But over the last year and a half to 2 years, IMS has been incubating an internal startup, which is referred to as Direct Link, and this is the division that my team resides in. So currently we're building a conversational banking platform for community banks and credit unions, which specifically competes on configuration and control for dialogue content management over sort of varying customer engagement channels like telephone, web chat, and things like that. So that's what I'm working on today, and that's my current role. Previously, I've held a variety of managerial and contributor roles in data science, analytics, customer success, IT business management, and a little bit of sales even here and there. And the one thing I actually realized was that intentionally or not, probably not intentionally, is that I've always been really close to working with a specific software product, either one that was developed for internal audiences or one that was developed in sort of like the SaaS mode and selling to customer bases. So it's a little bit about me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. You have a lot of great experience to really pull from. And today the big topic. Yeah.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I totally forgot, and I'll get yelled at for not pitching this. I'm also an adjunct professor at Syracuse University, where I teach 3 courses, scripting for data science, database management and design, and natural language processing. So sorry for that. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, yeah, you're good. No, that's awesome to hear. So you have great experience in both industry and academia. So you get to see kind of what the next generation of students are learning in the data field. But that's awesome from your perspective. And NLP is a huge thing in the market right now. It's natural language processing. How has NLP really helped improve products in the financial sector?
Certainly. So I did see that the Data Standard recently did an interview regarding NLP. Haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but hopefully none of my content overlaps. But in terms of NLP in the financial sector, there are really numerous benefits. For us, one of the first ones is actually increased accessibility for the impaired community by offering speech and text-enabled actions, either on the web, telephone, or some of those other sort of traditional challenges that are easily mitigated by things like screen readers and text-to-type browser plugins. We can kind of augment and enhance a lot of those experiences right off the bat for the accessibility population, which for us is a really great side effect of what we're working on. And then for the sort of the traditional or general audience, our software has touch points wherever the customer prefers to engage. So in terms of natural language processing, you're no longer sort of tied to your traditional browser-based application for mobile. You can really communicate with your bank wherever you prefer, whether that's over the phone, whether that's using a voice or digital assistant. And in the future, potentially, there could even be IoT linked devices that have sort of a range of interactions that go beyond just speech. They could even potentially be augmented reality type functions in the not so far off future. So where does NLP live in all of that? I think it touches a little bit of all of it. I would like to see sort of either voice or text enabled actions wherever there are button clicks or keystrokes being added. I really do think that's the future.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. Common challenge that I've really heard from past guests on this podcast is that a really big challenge is that they're working with different languages for NLP. Is that ever a challenge that you've had to kind of deal with before?
It is. So in terms of language variability, we've dealt with the common Romance languages, so being able to translate into Spanish and French. Beyond that, the other character types is not something that we've tackled, but I do see in the longevity of our successful organization, it's definitely something that we'll have to address at some point. I know that there's obviously work in those fields, and because of the way that we're operating as a business, as much as possible, we are integrating third-party services to help make our service and solution as great as possible, leaning on others either in the cloud space for AWS and Google, but other third parties that we integrate with our software. So when the time comes and integrating these language either like real-time language translators or even using a third-party service to help with translation, we definitely see an opportunity there. And then in terms of the natural language processing of languages, hopefully, if we're to that point where we need a non-Romance language to be translated for NLP, we also have the budget to hire someone to help us with that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. And I'm sure you're also working with other companies as well. And so, how do you work with other small to mid-sized level financial companies, I should say?
Oh, certainly. So we definitely respect a lot of, especially the large financial institutions, in sort of paving the way for a lot of the natural language processing and chatbot and digital assistant work. For instance, Bank of America has Erica. Wells Fargo's has a product called Eno. These are very much sort of the leaders in the space in terms of what they're able to do in the digital conversational digital banking space. And then in terms of our mid-level and smaller market opportunities, this is really where our business is primarily focused. Our organization operates as a cloud-based SaaS business. So our software engagements are very positively, very high touch. We love the credit union and community banking market because it's so customer focused. And by the way, for credit unions, their customers are referred to as members. So if you hear me say member, it's synonymous with customer in our context. At the same time, most of the technology used by these small and mid-market banking clients are somewhat limited. They can't necessarily build out their own technology because they don't have the budgets, and instead sort of allocate those funds to do things like community outreach and customer service. So what that means, though, is they traditionally have already been partnering with third parties. So us being a third party vendor for them is not so far outside of the norm for a lot of these small and mid-market customers. I've previously worked in industries that have small and mid-market customer bases that have never worked with a third-party technical vendor before, and everything was done in-house. So it's a little bit of a switch in this current engagement versus that previous one that I held. And then because we are working in a very service-oriented industry, technology service-oriented industry, there are a lot of opportunities for integrations between Service A and Service B. A really big one in our field is working directly with the banking core providers. A banking core you can think of as the general ledger or the software that maintains the financial records for all of the customers at the bank. And in order to do a lot of the heavy lifting of banking, there need to either be direct integrations with the cores or with the online banking providers that have themselves integrated with the core. So in our route, we've been partnering with numerous cores that are sort of the leaders in these spaces. And a good amount of our effort in the development process over the last year and a half has been standing up those out-of-the-box integrations so that when we're ready to go live, the credit unions and community banks have a whole suite of skill sets that are available to them right out of the box for those banking customers.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. And you're doing a lot of different things right now in your line of work with just banking and the financial industry. And so, what do you think has been your biggest challenge in your line of work?
Sure. Like I mentioned, we're very much an incubating startup within a larger organization. We are fairly autonomous in the way that we're building up our team and our software stack. This is my third quote unquote startup, and it's very similar to the previous startups that I've worked at in the way that we function and operate. So I would say that our challenges are similar to the ones that other startups face. These are challenges in hiring, specifically outside of the big cities, New York, San Francisco, Austin, things like that. It can be challenging to hire in Syracuse, New York. Scaling our business and staying relevant, also a constant challenge. Making sure that we are focusing and positioning our tool not just to solve problems today, but be able to solve problems over the next 2, 5, 10 years is really challenging, especially in the NLP and ML space because of the way that the algorithms sort of go through hype cycles and sort of ebb and flow with their efficacy. Now, in terms of additional challenges that we're facing, I'd say more abstractly, definitely keeping up with the evolutionary architectures. So when we're putting in place solutions, we want to make sure that we can integrate not with just what's out there today, but making our standards and protocols as flexible as possible so that if there is a new thing that happens in the marketplace, we can quickly, develop a proof of concept, react, and figure out, is this a good value for our customers, and how would we work with this platform? So being deployed in AWS is where we've been focused, and we've very much sort of clung to the microservices architecture and a lot of event-driven type work when it comes to orchestrating our conversation engine.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of challenges that you've had to face. And I'm sure in the coming years, there's going to be new challenges that kind of arise. And you also touched on a really interesting topic that I wanted to get into is just the future of NLP and how that might be impacting everything. Do you think that NLP will be the next big thing that will really impact the financial industry? Or is there another type of aspect that'll really drive this financial industry? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but I believe NLP will play a significant part in the future of not just the financial industry, but really any industry where there's human interaction. any non-conversational user interface today, whether it's just like filling out a form, basic data entry, or even configurations or settings, can all eventually be migrated towards more of a conversational interface. And by conversation, it doesn't have to be that you have a history and customer relationship management system. It could simply be just voice or text-driven commands that don't require taxonomies and don't require nomenclature to be transferred from the new system to the user. By allowing the system and the user always to be using the common or general or casual language that they tend to operate in, software will become a lot more easy to adopt and adapt to, because no longer do you have to now memorize and record and do all of these onboardings that are so tedious when integrating with new systems. So will NLP be the thing? Probably not, but I do think that NLP will be a core plugin to whatever the future might hold, whether that's augmented reality systems or this IoT revolution that we're kind of going through. I do think that NLP will be a huge function of those, but it won't be the end all to those.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with just technology in general, really advancing at a really rapid pace. We really don't know what's to come in the future, and there's going to be a lot of cool things that we're excited to see, definitely. And Ben, thank you so much for being on the show today. We at the Data Standard, we're always trying to build a community of data experts and data enthusiasts so that they can all come together and just be able to network and communicate with each other. So what's something the community can help you do?
Yeah, hiring. And we are primarily looking for on-site, but we're open to remote opportunities. So if there are opportunities for networking and mentorship, that always helps bridge the gap in being able to facilitate a new hire. And additionally, if this doesn't already exist today, I am somewhat new to the Data Standard, something like a dedicated Slack channel or dedicated Slack account, so that people can kind of interact and talk about specific topics, whether it's NLP, deep learning, a jobs forum, for instance. And having a platform like that can really create new trust networks among a lot of like-minded individuals that are working on specific problems or niche applications.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea, is to have a Slack channel. So we'll definitely talk internally with our team about that. Cool. And where can everyone find you online to connect with you?
So I'm not much of a social media presence. You can find me on LinkedIn. I guess my LinkedIn handle is Ben-Nichols. So I guess if you just put that at the end of the LinkedIn URL, you should find me. And in addition, not me per se, but at the beginning of next month, we will be launching our new direct link website, which is directlink.ai. So you'll be able to find all about us there, as well as a sneak peek of some of our emerging technologies.
Yeah, awesome. And to our audience, for more information on the Data Standard, you can find us at www.datastandard.io, as well as on our LinkedIn and YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Ben, for joining me today. It was so great to hear more about your work with NLP and all the great things that you're working on. So thanks so much for being on the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure to talk to you.